Good morning, welcome to today's class. This is angular figure. Now, the first thing you do is to take your sketch pad. When you check at the back of your textbook, you will see a plain part where you can actually work on. Now find a plain paper. You can actually bend your paper into two to be able to find the center part, which is the midpoint of your paper, of your sketch pad. Now, the first thing you do, you divide it into two with your ruler quickly, and when you divide your sketch pad into two, find the midpoint. Now, you take your straight line, you mark 1 inch first. After your 1 inch, the first thing you do before you start drawing is to leave your top line, which is half inch. Half an inch from the center line, you leave your half inch. You leave your half inch on your top line. You go to the second line, you measure 1 inch down. You take your 1 inch down. You take your lines across 1 inch. The next thing you do, you take your half inch in 3 places below your 1 inch. Half inch in 3 places below your 1 inch. And when you are done with the half inch in 3 places below your 1 inch, you take the lines straight across to the both sides. Half inch. Half inch. Half inch. Now you do that in 3 places. After your half inch, you take 1.5 inch below. Your half inch in 3 places, you take 1.5 inch below for your waist. You put it 1.5 inch. Now after your 1.5 inch, you quickly take 1 inch below. 1 inch. Now after your 1 inch measurement, you take 2 inch below. Go to your center line and measure on that same line 2 inch in 2 places. Take your lines across this way, 2 inch in 2 places, 2 inch, 2 inch. Now below the 2 inch, you take half inch in 2 places, half inch, half inch, half an inch, half an inch. So now I'm done with this. Now this is my measurement. Here you have half inch, 1 inch, half inch, half inch, half inch in 3 places, 1.5 inch, you have 1 inch, you have 2 inch in 2 places, and you have half inch in 2 places. Now take your lines across, dividing your paper into 2 or your sketch pad into 2. Now the first thing I do is to go to the head, which is the 1 inch. That will be the head. I'll measure, take 1 cm out, dividing it into to find the midpoint. Have 1 cm on this side, 1 cm on the other side. Now when I'm done with that, take your circle, take your hands with a curve, take a curve to meet the midpoint. You can as well take a line, you can as well take a straight line on both sides, then connect with an oval towards the down part of the neck. Now here you've achieved the head, which is an oval shape. Now I go to the neck. The next thing you do, you go back to the neck. You can take half cm on each side, half cm, half cm on both sides. From the side of the neck, you take your half cm out, left and right. Connect it with your ruler straight to the head. Now we've achieved the head to the neck. Now from the shoulder, from the neck point here, which is you have here, this point is 1 cm, half cm and half cm to get the wideness of the neck. Now you take 1 inch from this midpoint out, 1 inch on both sides. take your line straight down from the 1 inch down to the next line, which is your chest line. Now this is the head. Your top line. Your top line, where you have the neck / shoulder. You have the neck / shoulder. The next line you have your chest, which is this is the chest. Now I'm done with the chest. The next thing I'll take 1/4 inch in, 1/4 inch, half of half inch, which is 1/4 in, 1/4 in. You take it in, 1/4 in, 1/4 in. Take a straight line to end with a curve below, running in this way. To get the bust, make sure you rest on the lower line. The next thing you do, go back to the waist, where you have the waist. Now this is the bust. You have the waist. You have the hip. Now the waist here, take half inch, half an inch, half an inch on both sides, dividing this into 2 first. Divide the waist into 2. Find the midpoint of the 1.5, which is 3/4. Mark it and take your 1.5 out. Your 1.5 out on both sides. Then take your ruler, connect on the side of your bust to your 1.5. On both sides of the bust, connect to your half inch. On both sides. Now for the other part, which is this is the midpoint of the waist, to get the lower part of the waist, you can actually use your 1 inch for your shoulder to get the low waist, or you use the chest measurement, which is 3/4. Now we'll be using 1 inch. You can use your ruler on this side to be able to get the accurate measurement. Now you do this as a guide. Now here I'm at the low waist now. The next thing, I will leave the hip and go to the knee. I'll take half inch on both sides out. From the center line, half an inch, half an inch. Take your measurements out on both sides. Now take your ruler, place your ruler side, connecting the hip, the low waist, across the hip to the knee. Connect with your ruler. So you connect right from the waist to the knee. Now below the knee, you draw out your calves. You can actually use 1/4 inch, half of half inch. Make sure it's slanting out and not too slanted, so the calves will not be too big. Take it. So I think you can actually use 1/4 of an inch, which is 1/4. But slanting, that is the length. Now I'll go back to the ankle. I'll go to the ankle now. This is the ankle. Now we'll be connected. Now I'll use 1.4. I'll use 1/4, which is 1/4 for this, half of 1/4. I'll take this half of half inch. Now I will connect my calf with my ruler straight to this point. Now I've connected to the from my calf, which is from my knee to my ankle. Now the next thing I will do for the feet, and the last one is the toe. So at this point, I'll take half an inch on both sides, half an inch out, half inch out. This is the half inch, half inch. Connect with your ruler from your feet, from your ankle to the feet. Now the lower part, I'll take 1.4, which is dividing half inch into 2, which is 1/4, which is quarter. I'll take it forward a little bit. Take your measurement forward, dividing it into 2. That will be the center point of the toe. Take your ruler, connect to that point on both sides. After doing this, go to the midpoint of the feet. Take another angle, your ruler, to create another angle to meet this angle to create a triangular shape at the down part. Now here I'm done with the body, connecting everything. You can see why we say it's angular, because the body has no shape, everything is in angles. Now I'll go to the hand quickly. Take your ruler to the side of your shoulder and take a straight line running towards the midpoint of the hip on both sides. On both sides. For a guide, you can actually use from the waist point, from the midpoint of your waist, which is this point, you can actually take 1 inch out. You can take 1 inch out on both sides. 1 inch. You can take 1 inch out on this side to guide you towards when you are coming down with your ruler. You can take your line, your ruler across the 1 inch to run down to the midpoint of the hip, which way to direct you. Now I'm done with that. From this midpoint now, I can go, okay, from the midpoint now, just do the midpoint. Go to the wrist, which is this point. Take 1.4, which is 1/4, which is quarter. Take the measurements this way. Take your measurements in from the outer part. Take your measurements inward. Take your measurements inward. 1/4, which is quarter. Now, when you are done with that for the wrist, that is the wrist width. That's the wideness of it. Go to the bust. Take your ruler, place it close to the bust, to the side of the bust. Connect it to the inner part of the hand, of the wrist, where your quarter stops, because you take your 1/4 inch inward, not outward. Now take your ruler, place it towards this angle, connect it back to the wrist. Now when you are done with that, go down here, take your ruler again, place it this way, straight, to give you this angular effect, like a diamond shape. The hand takes the diamond shape, which is the fingers. Now take your ruler. You can actually take 1/4 inch or half an inch for the wideness. You take your half an inch inward. In. Now connect this to your half an inch. Now the lower part, you take your ruler again, connect it inward on both sides to give you that diamond shape. Now you come in here, take your hands in again. So the hand gives you a diamond shape. Now this is the wrists. Then we have the finger. Now this is the angular figure. Now I want to quickly show you how to. Now this is the angular figure. Now the fleshing out, to be able to do fleshing out, it's actually easy. This is the angular figure. This is the angular figure drawing. The fleshing out is just the measurement without all the angles, but the fleshing out is more with a curve. So the fleshing out has a curve, so I'll just show you how you can actually do the fleshing out. You can take all your measurements in dots, following this, going through the same process. You can go through the same process to do the fleshing out. Take all your measurements in dots, then follow all the measurements with curves. Now the body takes curve, all the place where you have, you take all your measurements, you curve out all these parts. This is the midpoint of the waist. Now this is the lower part of the waist. You take a curve out. This is the hip. This is the knee. You can take your half inch, bring your hands this way, bring your calf out, continue, you do the same thing, all your measurements in dots. Still the same process, but we just, it's the curve. Now at this point you can actually just take your, which is the crotch area, and do this, connect with a straight line on both sides. With this you've achieved. The sleeve still, the hand still goes this way. Now this is how to do your fleshing out. So now we have all measurements here. So this is the difference, that no lines with shape. So that's called fleshing out.